The election resource issued a statement condemning the electoral that the government of Emerson Mnangagwa seeks to introduce to the Zimbabweans without involving Zimbabweans. It is public knowledge and common cause that about 90, if not 95% of the Zimbabweans are opposed to Emerson Mnangagwa continuing to be the president. What more actually paving his way to extend his term of office. Greetings and welcome to your lovely channel, the Hloniphani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. Let me read the statement dated 16 February 2026. It says, ERC, that is the Election Resource Center, a statement on the proposed constitutional amendment bill number 3 of 2026, a deepening crisis for democratic accountability in Zimbabwe. The Election Resource Center, ERC Africa, has cautiously taken note of the proposed Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment number 3 Bill of 2026, which proposes significant changes of Zimbabwe's electoral system and represents a profound departure from the standards set out in the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, and the SADC principles and guidelines governing democratic elections to which Zimbabwe is signatory. More specifically, 1. Concerns regarding changes to the electoral system without consultation. The bill proposes changes to the electoral system regarding the election of the president. The bill proposes removing the right of the Zimbabwean citizens to directly elect their president, substituting it with an indirect election of the president through parliament. While the ERC Africa acknowledges that electoral systems are subject to review and where necessary change, the process of changing an electoral system should be inclusive, following wide-range stakeholder consultations, and should be subject to a referendum. As it stands, the proposals have far-reaching consequences on participatory democracy and are being implemented without national consensus or stakeholder consultations, in violation of Article 10 of the ACDEG, which stipulates that the process of amending or revision of the Constitution rests on national consensus obtained, if need be, through referendum. The proposals abandon the principle of government by consent. 2. The extension of tenure. The bill additionally seeks to extend the terms of elected officials from 5 to 7 years. The proposal is premised on the fact that 5-year cycle of elections places Zimbabwe in a perpetual election mode that is hindering economic development. The proposal and rationale behind it are not grounded in fact. The proposal ignores that political polarization and the perpetual electioneering are byproducts of disputed elections. The proposals ignores key reform recommendations that would improve the credibility of elections in Zimbabwe and ultimately reduces disputes and political polarization. The proposals ignore the biggest driving factor of elections since 2018, harmonized elections, which have been by-elections brought about by the application of Section 129K of the Constitution, namely the recall clause, that has been abused by political parties, placing Zimbabwe in a perpetual electoral cycle and has directly contributed to over 150 by-elections since 2019. Ultimately, in terms of the proposal to extend the term of office of elected officials, the ERC Africa remains guided by Section 3287 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which states that, notwithstanding any other provisions of this section, an amendment to a term limit provision, the effect of which is to extend the length of time that a person may hold or occupy any public office, does not apply in relation to any person who held or occupied that office or an equivalent of office at any time before the amendment. 3. The decoupling of electoral functions, a threat to independence. The bill fragmentizes the constitutional functions of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission by transferring voter registration and the voters' roll to the Registrar General and delimitation of a new delimitation commission, stripping the ZEC of these core functions. The proposals go against the reform recommendations raised by election observers, political parties, and the ZEC itself relating to voter registration, delimitation, and its independence. The proposed establishment of a new delimitation commission and the transfer of the voter registration and the voters' roll to the Registrar General poses a significant threat to ZEC's independence. The proposed amendments do not assist, protect, or further the independence of the Electoral Commission in violation of the Constitution and the static principles and guidelines governing democratic elections. The proposals are simply a revision of the status quo aimed of the contentious former Registrar General of Voters, repealed in the General Laws Amendment Bill 2015, and the former Delimitation Commission, repealed by Section 11 of Act 11 of 2007, Amendment number 18, and ignore the historical disputes that arose between the former Delimitation Commissioner, Registrar General of Voters, and ZEC in the administration of elections that diminished the credibility of previous elections. Former ZEC chairperson Simpson Mnangagwa previously noted the difficulty of separating duties and roles between ZEC and other state institutions. ERC Africa views having one institution administer all election-related processes, or when necessary, other relevant institutions operate under the supervision of Commission as a common sense measure. Role of Parliament. 4. Parliament possesses the means, if not the will, to address the concerns and issues arising from proposed constitutional amendments without the courts or provoking widespread discontent. It is the duty of Parliament to uphold constitutional supremacy and to protect the voice of the citizens. 5. Traditional leaders. In a move that the ERC finds particularly alarming, the bill proposes to repeal Section 28(2), which currently prohibits traditional leaders from being members of any political party and participating in partisan politics. Traditional leaders serve as custodians of culture, values, and unity of society. Allowing traditional leaders to engage in partisan politics risks undermining this role in communities with diverse political views, potentially deepening polarization, mistrust, and division. Although the proposed amendments aimed to promote cohesion and stability, partisan conduct by traditional leaders would undermine those objectives. ERC notes that such partisanship has been a source of voter cohesion in rural communities and formally permitting traditional leaders to join political parties without widespread consensus potentially institutionalizes intimidation and cohesion, contrary to static requirements for an environment free from duress. 6. Our call to action. The ERC asserts that any constitutional change of this magnitude fundamentally alters the relationship between the state and the citizens and cannot be resolved by a simple parliamentary. The ERC calls for these measures to be subjected to a national consensus and, where necessary, a national referendum. The ERC Africa continues to carefully review the proposed Constitution of Zimbabwe, Amendment Number 3, Bill 2026, and any other proposals, assessing their overall impact on the electoral architecture of Zimbabwe. So that is the statement from the Electoral Resource Center. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so